What's up, folks? We are back. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Otaku Kickback Sessions. As always, I'm your host, Easy the Shinobi, and with me is my co-host, Green Specter.
Yo, was good.
What's good? What's good? Happy Friday. We are recording on a Friday night. Your boys are really getting off of work, and decided, hey, you know what? Let's hop in. Let's get ready for the show. You know what just hit me right now, man?
What's up?
So on our old podcast project, right? It took us about a few years to get to 5 episodes. We're hitting the 5 episode mark in a year.
Nice. We stopped being lazy.
Fucking procrastination, no more, dog. We're hitting progress and stuff. We're finally gelling,
God.
dog. My dad will be proud of me, or probably not, but still, at least I'm doing something. Yeah, but yeah, as we mentioned in the last episode, we went to go see Deadpool and Wolverine. Um, Dude, that was a good ass movie.
Oh yeah, that's one of those movies that I would watch over and over and over again.
Same. The way that they told the story of it. First things first, the opening sequence, and just gonna get into a bit of spoiler territory right off the bat. For the movie, so in case you haven't watched it, what are you waiting for? Go watch it. This shit is actually worth the money. But yeah, on a serious note, skip it in case you want to avoid spoilers. But the opening sequence when Deadpool's fighting the TVA agents, well done. That shit was insane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then basically the whole story about the multi timelines, and then the introduction of what they call anchor beings. It really helped it really helped delve into why essentially Wade Wilson had to go and find Wolverine.
And along the way, we got to see variants of Wolverines,
Yeah,
including some from comic books that I, as a comic nerd myself, I was a real fan of seeing the different variations of Wolverine.
yeah, because we got the comic accurate Wolverine, and then we got the one I was surprised they included was the Hulk versus Wolverine timeline variant.
Oh, you'd be ah, what's the word I'm looking for? We're 2 minutes in, can't swear a lot.
Be
You
surprised.
you'd be stupid not to include Hulk versus Wolverine.
Yeah,
It's one of those classics.
yeah, because it's essentially one of Wolverine's first solo comics. Aside from the X-Men, right?
Yeah, well,
Mm,
somewhat.
nice. That, and basically from at least from what I've seen from the animated film on YouTube, from the different clips, it fits as well. So you can how Deadpool also comes out in that one, except he's not kidnapping Wolverine for Weapon X. Um, no, yeah, but honestly, I mean, what you think of the movie?
I loved it.
Yeah,
Honestly, there's nothing I can't say because I loved it.
yeah.
One thing I will say though
Mhm.
is some information I found out. Um, okay, you remember that scene where you know spoilers in
Mhm.
case why are you still here if you haven't seen the movie? We already told you spoilers.
Yep.
The fight scene where it's Deadpool, Wolverine, Gambit, Elektra, and
And
Blade.
mhm.
What if I told you that there was going to be another Wolverine in there?
Really?
Yes, aside from X-23.
Is it would it be Old Man Logan again, or?
What if I told you that the Calvarine was going to be in there to help them out with the fight?
Wait. The Calvary, like the one that slashed Deadpool early on when he was jumping through the timelines. He was actually supposed to be in a bigger part for the movie.
Yes. And this is information I dug up. I haven't double confirmed it, so take this with a grain of salt, but there is some problems with Ryan Reynolds, Henry Cavill, negotiating with the director to include some deleted scenes in the Blu-ray.
Hmm.
Deleted scenes,
Okay.
scenes that Henry Cavill was in. There was going to be a scene where Henry Cavill was on a motorcycle playing the Calvarine, fighting against the Wolverine that Deadpool went to grab.
Damn, really? So we
It
were
was
actually,
it was going to be instead of the addition of that intro we got,
huh?
it was going to be Calvarine and Wolverine duking it out for 2 minutes.
Oh shit, really? So it was gonna be so essentially it's gonna be the Hugh Jackman Wolverine and the Henry Cavill Wolverine in like a basic brawl.
Yeah,
Damn.
and
Oh,
then aside from that, we were going to get that big anticlimactic fight scene and all that stuff, and we're going to get uh, Hugh Jackman, fucking X-23. I forgot the name of her actress, and Henry Cavill, three Wolverines fighting in that huge scene.
damn, really?
Can you imagine? Just like you've already seen Henry Cavill and all stuff, you're like, oh man, that's so dope. And then the big fight scene where Gambit's, speaking Cantonese or whatever type of accent he's speaking.
That's Caucasian, my dog.
Potato, potato. I still can't understand him, anyways.
No, yeah, but no, that shit would have been crazy. I had no idea that.
It would have been right,
Yeah.
and that's the same thing. Henry Cavill and Ryan Reynolds said as well. Dude, we're gonna film this. It's gonna be crazy. The fans are gonna go wild. Then I forgot what director it was. He said, "Nah, we're not gonna do that. Cut it. We're just gonna give Henry Cavill his Calvarine debut for like a minute."
Damn, that's man, that sucks. Because I mean, the Calvarine cameo, it was, I mean, it was already like a big enough surprise too. Because I mean, before the movie came out, we had no idea that this dude was actually going to appear in the movie. But
Right?
but we especially had no idea that he was supposed to actually have like a bigger part in the final fight.
Yeah.
Damn, no, that thing would have been insane. Like essentially doing the three Wolverine or the three different Wolverine variants with X-23 included in there. Man, that shit would have gone hard.
Oh yeah. And I haven't double confirmed this, so take it with a grain of salt.
Mhm.
But the whole Henry Cavill and Ryan Reynolds speaking to the director about adding deleted scenes to the Blu-ray, that I have double confirmed.
Okay, and so
Yeah.
and so
So they're trying to negotiate or beg them to add the deleted scenes into the Blu-ray. But
yeah, I mean
what's his face? It's like, no, nobody's gonna buy Blu-rays if we add the like deleted scenes or like extra stuff onto the movie. And no, he's wrong.
no, yeah, no, I would. I mean, I'm pretty sure a good chunk of people would actually buy Blu-rays that, or the streaming, or at least the download streams would shoot up if they make it like an extended cut, kind of like how they did for the Snyder cut for the Justice League movie.
Yeah, but
I'm
nobody's
pretty
watching that
sure.
shit.
Nah, it was a good amount of hype for it around the pandemic, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, because
Um,
everybody had tons of time to do nothing.
Yeah, that's true. But no, for like if they were to take an extended cut of Deadpool and Wolverine, where it includes basically the Henry Cavill Wolverine scenes and not just the initial scene, but the essentially the huge fight between him and the Hugh Jackman Wolverine. Dog, I mean, I would pay like the extra like $2-3 for it.
Oh, dude, I'd pay full price for that shit.
Yeah, shit, man. Man. That would have been fucking awesome to see. And truth be told, I mean, if it's one of those things, I know there's a joke that Deadpool says like, that Hugh Jackman was gonna be Wolverine till 90. But in the case of if Hugh Jackman didn't come back as Wolverine, I could see Henry Cavill taking over.
Oh, dude, he made such a perfect like Wolverine.
Yeah, Yeah, he basically fits the part for it, and if it's one of those things where we're gonna include him as one of the Wolverine variants in one of the different timelines, seeing as how they're essentially expanding more on it. Man, I would love to see that.
Yeah, it just kind of sucked how he got sick, like pre recording of the
Mm,
scenes, because
okay.
as the scene was coming up, he was still pumping iron and all that stuff, keeping himself jacked.
Hmm.
And at the same time, he was smoking those cigars.
Okay.
So he was getting a lack of oxygen, and after they recorded the whole scene and all that stuff, he got really sick and puked and all
Eesh.
that stuff because the lack of oxygen, because he's pumping iron, he's burning oxygen in his body, he's burning calories, plus the addition of the cigar. It's keeping him from getting oxygen every time he's uh, inhaling to exhale when he's pumping iron.
Yeah, I had no idea that he actually got sick basically before the recording of it. Man, that just that adds more to, a bit more to the movie after learning more like behind the scenes
Oh
stuff
yeah,
about it.
it just adds to how dedicated he is.
Yeah, he's a hell of an actor. I mean, he was pretty good. I've only really watched Man of Steel once, but I mean, I thought it was pretty solid as Man of Steel and stuff. So hopefully we see him more, especially now that we're heading into kind of like the new age, the new phase of Marvel movies and stuff. Um, what's one underrated fact that I did like from the movie that I forgot to tell you last time we hung out?
What's up?
So you remember the scene where Deadpool and Wolverine are fighting in the void, right?
Yes.
And when Wolverine's charging at Deadpool, is the actual basically launching at him on all fours instead of just basically doing the regular sprint run that you see normally in kind of like action movies.
Yeah. It shows that more animalistic side.
Yeah, yeah, and so basically, it taps into the more, or like you said, in the more animalistic side of Wolverine, and so that's one of like the small key things that I loved about the movie. That and a bit off topic, I didn't know "Bye Bye Bye" from NSYNC was such a banger. Um,
Yeah.
like like I heard it maybe once before in my life before the movie, and it was in passing. I was like, oh, okay, that song's pretty cool. And then when I heard the movie, oh, after the movie, I've been like playing it in my head for like the past like 2 3 weeks.
I've been seeing a lot on the YouTube Shorts.
Same, and on TikTok as well. Man, those, yeah, that's just low key a banger. I mean, that shit.
Just as an off topic, uh, I want to see Billy Kid. The character from Zenless
So
Zone Zero.
yeah,
I want to see him do the Deadpool dance from Bye
uh,
Bye Bye. Because, I mean, come on, let's be honest. He's technically the Hyoverse Deadpool.
exactly. Like without the fourth wall break, but he still has the same style of comedy, and basically, he has the same type of energy that Deadpool has. So,
I
I
want to
would.
see him do the Deadpool dance. Come, it's only fitting.
It really is only fitting, even in a fan animation. Like if anybody hears this out there, that's that does animations. Come on, y'all, just give us some of that Billy Kid, Deadpool dance animations to Bye Bye Bye. That shit would go. Um,
And if you don't know what we're talking about, don't worry about it. It's just a little sidetracked.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much a little sidetrack from a couple dudes that are grinding out Zilla Zone Zero. Speaking of going back to it, so after the movie, when we were heading on the way back home, we were in the car when we heard this, and I remember telling you guys about this on the way over there. Fucking Robert Downey Jr.
Oh,
back
yeah.
back as Doctor Doom.
Right. I forgot about that. And here's another information.
Yeah,
So, you know that scene in Deadpool where he's interviewing to become an Avenger?
yeah.
That takes place in the timeline. It takes place in 2016, pre Infinity War, before, you know, Iron Man snapped himself out of existence.
Wait, really?
Yes.
Huh.
So it takes place during 2016, and of the recording supposedly.
Yeah.
And Ryan Reynolds did pitch Robert Downey Jr. Hey, I want you to come, be on my movie and all that stuff,
Hmm.
and I want you to play Tony Stark for just as a cameo, giving me Deadpool an interview and all that stuff, and rejecting me and all that stuff. Saying, "Oh, you're not here." Pretty much the whole speech we got from
From Happy
uh,
Hogan.
Happy Hogan saying, "No, you're not hero material." Yada yada yada.
Okay.
That was supposed to be Robert Downey Jr.
Right. Really?
Yes, Robert Downey Jr. turned him down, but here's the thing. He
Hmm.
turned him down and he couldn't tell him why because 2 or 3 days before, he was told that he was going to play Doctor Doom.
Damn.
So, as much as Robert Downey Jr. wanted to tell Ryan Reynolds, he had to keep it a secret so that they could reveal it as his big surprise. And afterwards, when it got announced, Ryan Reynolds was like, that's why he couldn't do it. Okay, you know what? I respect it. Congratulations.
Yeah, man. Because I mean, that was a shock to everybody. Because nobody really thought that he was gonna come back as Doctor Doom. Everybody thought it's like, okay, he's coming back. He's gonna come back as in, like cameos or flashbacks for any of the future Marvel stuff. But
I mean,
no,
he did say him and no, yeah, he did say if I'm needed to come back to the Marvel universe, I'd be glad to come back.
yeah, yeah, and that would have been at the time, or at least in my thought process at the time, it's like, okay, it's probably going to be for to do some like to delve more into kind of like Tony Stark's life into the MCU. But dude, no, as I said, I did not think he was going to come back as Doctor Doom, and now the thing where we're trying to wonder is like, is he going to come back as like a Tony Stark variant playing or being Doctor Doom, or is it going to be Victor Von Doom himself?
Because there was this thing in the comics where I forget the premise to it, but apparently Doctor Doom and Robert Downey Jr. Sorry, Tony Stark were working on this science experiment. It went wrong, but it went according to Doom's plans.
Hmm.
So he pretty much body swapped them so that he could rule Stark Industries, uses advanced tech to his own advantage, yada yada yada. Classic body swapping and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, I expect maybe this is that variant of Doctor Doom where because they're opening up to the multiverse, we have the TVA. Maybe that version of Doctor Doom figured out, oh, I can go into all their multiverses because I did all of this like five brain head plays. Goes into
Hmm.
the main MCU, which is 616, and you know says, I'm Doctor Doom. I'm gonna rule this place. This dimension's mine. Fantastic Four comes in. They stop him. We get Secret Wars.
Yeah, yeah, because I know, well, at least for the Fantastic Four, so the main villain for the new movie that's coming up is going to be Galactus, or at
Yeah.
least how they introduced it at Comic Con. So it would come into play that later on there's a teaser of them essentially finding activity being done in Latveria, um, and that will lead into start planting the seeds for Avengers Doomsday. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, no, I can see that in a way, playing into that body swap storyline, where it's essentially they think it's Tony Stark because it looks exactly like Tony,
Yeah.
but it's actually Doom. Um, and he explains the backstory. It's like, oh, yeah, this is Tony's body, but this is my mind, and I'm the one that's running it. And then you could also tie into the fact that in his universe, Because remember, that's also a comic, at least from what I saw. That's also a comic where a Doom was the one to beat Thanos in the end. So you could play into that timeline where Doom ended up beating Thanos with on his own without needing like the help of the Avengers or any other superhero.
Yeah, because Doom is pretty much only interested in keeping Latveria safe and being the smartest person in the universe,
Hmm. Hmm.
which he can't because Tony Stark is up there and King T'Challa is up there as well.
Yeah.
But, Doom is just like, all right, cool. I'll just have to settle for being third best, but I'll always be 10 steps ahead. So, you think you defeated me, but I let you win because I secretly want to do some other nefarious plans.
Yeah.
And I need an excuse to leave.
Well, yeah, because I mean, Doctor Doom. At least from how you mentioned him before. I mean, this dude is essentially like a very, very. He's a very calculating villain. Like he never. There's no such thing as dying for him,
No.
and he's always like kind of like 10 steps. Even with the whole Doom bots and ruling Liberia, and then because doesn't he end up taking over like the United States in one of the comic storylines?
I think so. I can't really remember well. I've it's been a while since I've just dropped comics
Hmm.
because nothing good is really coming out lately. So I'm like, screw it, I'll read manga instead.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But yeah, I mean, to anybody that's looking forward to this and all that, and doesn't, I would highly recommend looking into this man because this dude is. You thought Thanos was a villain. Now this fool is smart. He is a villain,
Yeah.
and not in a way of like, oh, maybe he's kind of like an anti-hero or or kind of one of those villains. Like that has a deeper meaning to it. This man is just a bred villain genius. Yeah. So since we're on the subject of superheroes, I know last weekend we got the final chapter of My Hero Academia.
Right.
You
A
know,
lot of people were very disappointed, but I'm just like, no, it's actually a fitting end.
it
I
is.
liked it.
It is. It is. And you know what? Let's take a crack. Let's take a crack at it. Give our perspective for it. And before we get into it, again, heavy spoilers for it. That's going to be for the last chapter of My Hero Academia, plus some mentions of basically previous chapters. I know the anime is going on for season 7 right now, so in case you guys don't want to get spoiled, feel free to skip ahead. This is going to cover most of the podcast, so once we have this.
This whole podcast is just spoilers. You might as well listen to it or don't listen to it. It's your choice, really.
No, dog. We need the we need the audience. We need the audience score to come up. So at least give it
Yeah,
a.
but it's like, and this is what I don't get about people.
Hmm.
There'll be spoiler warnings,
Yeah,
but they'll still watch it or they'll still listen to it, and then they complain. Oh, why did you spoil me? You're you're the SOB that clicked on the spoiler link that clearly has in big red letters spoiler.
yeah, yeah. That's true. But yeah, that's true.
It's like the big red button all over again.
Yeah.
People say don't press it, and you're just like, I press.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to avoid spoilers, at least give us 5 seconds of your listening time, and then move on to your day if you don't want to get spoiled on stuff. But yeah, jumping into it, I'm like there is a genuine surprise of the reaction it got. But for me, looking at the end of My Hero Academia, it's one of those things where I didn't expect it to end the way it did, but I'm also not disappointed with it because it does fit into the characters of basically, especially fits into the character of Midoriya in the end. Because really, when you think about it, and heading and basically just heading into kind of like the future aspect of it, the time skip aspect of it. I know one of the things that people brought up was like this dude essentially over so his one for all quirk is gone, Emperors are gone. The final fight with Shigaraki essentially, um, you know, he lost his quirk in it, and basically, and all that. And so later on, after he graduated high school, as we see on the time skip, 8 years later, dude essentially became a teacher, and and I know in the end, people thought, okay, he's going to be the number one hero. He's going to have that ranking and all that. But no, this is a more fitting end because, I mean, when you think about it, and he explains it at the start that this is how I became the greatest hero. Yet later on, it was changed to like I think right before the last war arc, which is going on in the anime. Um, it did change to this is the story of how we all became the greatest heroes. And you got to think for this dude. I mean, he him being the greatest hero has more to do with the influence, with how he influenced like future generations. Kind of like All Might did with him and Class 1A's generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it is fitting that he's essentially not just a professor, but a professor at the top hero academy in Japan, probably the world in UA.
Yeah,
And
and in Japanese culture, teachers are highly respected.
yeah,
Having Midoriya in this position where not only does he look at everyone's quirk with an analytical point of view, but he's even if he is now quirkless, he can just look at someone and just be like, okay, cool, I know what you're struggling in because your quirk functions this and this and this.
yeah.
If you do X, Y, and Z, you'll get a better grasp of your quirk and it'll actually be a lot better for you.
Yeah, exactly, and that's essentially the main hidden strength of Midoriya, where he like other than his quirk, his best quality is the fact that he's very analytical and he could think of basic either comparisons or counters or any advice on the fly. It's like in that panel where um, I'm forgetting the name of that kid. I think his name is Dai. That's standing in front of the All Might statue that's nearby UA, and if you notice too, on the statue there is essentially they modified it to include Class 1A and some more people on the background because essentially the whole point of it was to change hero society, which Class 1A did collectively do altogether.
Yeah.
And so when Midoriya meets Dai in front of that statue, Dai tells him like, "Oh, I don't think I'm being told that my quirk isn't really that powerful because he could only summon plates from his hair." And instead of just telling the kid, "Ah, no, you'll be all right," you get to you'll do it. No, the dude actually takes time to start analyzing his quirk and even comparing it. It's like, I think you could use it in a way kind of like Mineta has his quirk, but maybe in a different feature since yours, it's just dishes, and with Mineta, he actually just sticks to people and all that. He goes into another one of his analytical kind of like deep thought rants and stuff, but yeah, in the end, it goes to show you that this dude is a fitting. In the end, he's a fitting teacher, and and not to mention, like again, he is basically working in for a prestigious university, so he is still getting relatively paid extremely well. Um, and by the end of it, we do see. I know another one of the points or one of the topics that was polarizing after it came out was the fact that Class 1A, at the request of Bakugo and All Might, they had to, or not they had to, but they invested money for Mei Hatsume and I believe it was Melissa Shield. They built Midori sort of like a version of his Iron Man suit that had all his quirks basically installed in it.
Yeah. They
And
pretty much re-gave him a second chance to continue to be a hero.
yeah, and I know, and at the end, and that's basically because for that to happen, that's essentially got to be millions of dollars worth of basically technology and time and equipment put in, and not to consider with the advancements that were made throughout the whole 8 year time skip in technology. And when you think about it, it does take, because I know people are like, oh, well, why does it take 8 years to build him a suit? Well, when you think of it all like this, compared to the All Might suit that he used in his fight against All for One, during the war, that one was done in a year, but it was basically made out of his car with Class 1A's quirks. And not to mention, it was done in the middle of essentially kind of like a war, kind of like where Japan was overrun by villains and they had to evacuate cities. So this was essentially thrown into it. It was essentially jerry rigged, and it still stood up to All for One.
I would compare the All Might suit to Iron Man's first suit that he built in a cave.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know, you have limited resources, you have limited time. All you know is that I need to build a really dense suit that will keep me alive so that I can complete my goal.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's
when I read that chapter of like, oh, this suit was done in a year and all that stuff, and it's made, it looks cool, but when it started falling apart because he was using the individual quirks, I would. That's the first thing that I compared it to.
yeah,
It's like Iron Man's first suit where he uses a machine gun, and it's like, all right, cool, ammo's done. Eject the machine gun because I can't reload it anymore. Uses a
yeah,
flamethrower. Okay, cool. Gasoline's done. Can't use that anymore. Now I gotta start punching stuff because I'm all out of weaponry.
yeah.
I see it as the same thing. All Might's suit.
Mhm. No, yeah, and yeah, you're exactly right on that. Where it's almost kind of like the same thing. That's the reason why during the fight, whenever like he would use a quirk, the suit would or a piece of the suit would either break off or fall off. Now, if you were to take that time, along with rebuilding the country after Shigaraki dies, after the whole fight is over, and it's pretty much focused on rebuilding society, not just because everything's devastated, but to make sure that you then no villains like this come out again. And then within those 8 years, you still have to invest into building the suit. Because on one thing that I did see pop up, that comparing the two suits is that while All Might in his prime, he was a power fighter. He used brute force to essentially go through villains and just basically beat them at that. With Midoriya, he's more of a varied fighter where he uses not just his analytics but the different quirks that One for All gave him, and so
Yeah,
to, and so to take because they do mention it in the chapter, for them to take the data from that fight from the final fight with Shigaraki plus the fights that he had in that 1 year while he was in UA, and not just put it into the suit, but make sure they got the most accurate data possible. And I went back to read it as well. Apparently, they also installed something so that we could capture current data, so that way they could update the suit as it goes on, and to make sure that it's more compatible with Midoriya's form and like fighting stance and all that. That's man, that obviously is going to take a lot of time. It really isn't as simple as like, hey, here's some money, get some scientists, build something.
no, yeah, it's just because us as like let's say us as Americans,
Hmm.
or yeah, us as Americans, we're used to watching scientists just develop these like ingenious inventions and stuff that pretty much it's like, oh, I have an idea for an invention. I'm gonna do this, and then I'll be done by tomorrow.
Yeah.
One of the prime examples, Doctor Eggman.
Hmm.
He this is a man with an IQ of five. 500 is exaggerating, but he would tell you that way. An IQ of 300.
Hmm.
He can literally take stuff apart and build some kind of doomsday weapon.
Right. Right.
Or people like Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory. He's a 10-year-old kid who has a secret laboratory and constantly either runs experiments or saves the world because it would impose on his experiments.
Yeah, exactly. And
Or
it did,
the better example, Jimmy Neutron. He built inventions out of junk in
yeah,
like a few
uh,
hours, only for it to fail and then realize, oh, wait, I know how to fix it. I just have to tweak this wire. Bam!
yeah,
Now it's an ingenious invention. Yeah, we're
yeah.
just used to that, where it's like, oh, they can just do it in a day because they're really smart people. No, the reality is inventing something like an Iron Man mech or an Iron Man suit to give to Midoriya. No, yeah, I would see why it took a really long time.
Yeah, because essentially you want to make sure that, and not to mention, you want to make sure that this thing lasts for a good couple of decades. Meanwhile, Midoriya is still he's doing his hero work because with any suit, if you're essentially rushing it, as you see it in the first Iron Man, as you see with All Might's suit, it's gonna crack and it's gonna break. And
Yeah,
so if it breaks in the most unfortunate time while the suit's fighting a villain, yeah, that's all for naught. So you wanted to make you especially take that extra time to make sure, hey, we gotta see that this suit could actually withstand like all the different punishment that these heroes could have, all the different testing that you could think of, which is basically kind of putting it through like different weather conditions, different elements, different essentially pressures and all that stuff. And
yeah.
so,
When you build something, you have to stress test it to see, okay, what are the limitations? How far can it go? Okay, it can't survive this. I mean, that's why we have new cars almost every year,
yeah,
because when the new car comes out, they're stress testing a newer car that's going to be better.
yeah, exactly. And in this case, you just want the suit to be like a one of one. There's no kind of like mass factory creating different copies of the suit. And so for that, you do need time. You need to make sure that this is all good, and that's what they did. And at the end, and in the end of the day, it's like, bro, for because I know people also kind of joked on it. It's like, oh well, they had to get Class 1A help. It's not so much that they had to beg for Class 1A. Dog, the rest of it is.
They all
Tell me if you know.
volunteered because it's like, oh, Midoriya lost his quirk. They even do mention it in the final like pages of the chapters where it's like, hey, you lost your quirk. What are you gonna do now? It's like, oh, I'm gonna continue. With the remaining embers I have, I'll continue to be a hero as much as I can until it's gone, and then you know I'll go back to being quirkless because I was born quirkless. It's something I'm used to.
Yeah, exactly. And for them to essentially not just delve like, okay, here's $20, here's all I could give. Not to for them to delve millions upon millions of dollars to help this dude simply because he's influenced their life that much in high school. I mean, that's love. That's essentially that's friendship.
Yeah, All Might funded his entire foundation, spent all of the money he had squirreled out to go towards the suit that Midoriya will wear, so that he could have a second chance.
Exactly. And speaking of All Might, that's actually another thing that in the end, I did come to appreciate about because one of the things I did ended up appreciating about My Hero Academia is that while it was a shonen battle series, they didn't specifically follow a lot of the shonen tropes, and in which case they didn't actually follow the trope of like, oh yeah, the your old mentor dying. No, what they did is they kept All Might alive. Like he fought. There was a death flag for him when he fought All for One the final time. But they kept him alive, and they actually used it to showcase different young heroes that weren't Midori or Bakugo or Todoroki. In that case, I think the ones that saved them were essentially, I think it was Tokoyami and then Jiro, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for that to happen, and then basically kind of give them at least a small spotlight. I mean, that's what I did appreciate about My Hero Academia, but yeah, I mean, overall, it was like the last chapter, I think it was a more fitting end to it as well. Not to mention that they did include like what the students were doing after they graduated high school. I mean, Shoji got an award for pretty much championing the mutant citizens and civilians and all that
Yeah,
that had mutant quirks.
to becoming a role model for all of them. Like, hey, we got to aspire to be like this guy, because
Yeah,
he's a mutant, but he still became a hero.
yeah, and basically, people he helped people achieve that, and essentially with Uraraka and Yayorozu and Jiro, they essentially created a program for quirk counseling. So instead of doing a thing of like, oh yeah, you have like a villain like quirk and all that, no, it's more so like, hey, we could help you out, so that way you could use your quirk for good, and we could show you the brighter side of it. It's like, you don't have a villainous quirk and all that. It's different, but we want to show you that you can still do good for society and so that way you can live out your dream to be a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know there was and I know there was a thing too of like, oh, how come they did it? Because the previous chapter before that, like, there wasn't really a outright confession with Uraraka and Midoriya. It was more so like, they comforted each other because Uraraka was essentially going through her own issues regarding Hero Society and like the death of Toga, and see whether or not it's like, is this something that we could really change? Is this something that like we can really move forward on? While there wasn't an outright confession, I mean, come on, she's wearing his mask. I mean, Horikoshi,
Yeah, her updated costume does have his mask.
yeah. And so that kind of gives it wasn't so much a direct confession, but it was at least a subtle nod, like, hey, if in the case of like, they are going out, here's like, maybe they did hook up on the back end of it, and we just don't see it.
Yeah, because
That
you got to remember, both characters are awkward.
Yeah, exactly. They're awkward, and especially they're awkward around they're shy around each other. But it does, at least in my view, it does fit. It does well. I do kind of see how people are a little kind of like not pissed, but a little like miffed about it. But I mean, I think the subtleness of it actually works out in this favor, because in the end, I mean, this is mainly a battle manga and a battle series. Um, but yeah, I mean that, and essentially the other aspect of like, oh, Class 1A doesn't visit Midoriya as often, or they don't hang out with Midoriya as often after they graduate from high school. Dog,
Everyone's
have you
busy.
tried
I mean,
have you tried hanging out with people that you graduate high school with? It gets busy.
yeah. Like, give me 10 people you still talk to from high school. You can't.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can't.
Like shit.
Out of the top of your head, you can probably just give me like 3 or 5, if
Yeah,
you're
pretty
lucky.
much. Yeah, then expecting a whole graduating class to like, oh yeah, we hang out and all that. No, I mean that's not the case. I mean, you know, it's tough. Some people grow up, people grow into their own lives and all that, and even Midori mentions there. It's like, oh, it's tough for everybody to find time off, so that way we could all like get together and hang out. Um, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I do think the dude did achieve his goal of becoming the greatest hero, because while he's not like showered in adoration and like everybody in public is like, oh, oh, there's Deku and all that, and you know coming up to him for autographs, because the thing is, for I think people compare him too much to how All Might was when he was a hero, where he was like essentially kind of like a celebrity, kind of like idolized and all that. Not that All Might used that to become kind of like narcissistic and all that, but no, it's just people recognized All Might. They come out to him for autographs. With Midoriya, this is more of a fitting end, because while All Might was like a kind of like a symbol of like victory and justice and all that, Midoriya is more of a symbol for change, and
Yeah,
more of a symbol for like, hey, we could do better as a society. And it fits well that it wasn't just his statue that got made, but it was a statue of the entire Class 1A, because it was all of them that influenced each other to essentially want to change the world, to want to change at least hero society in Japan.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
and I
so
feel like that is a subtle end to My Hero.
yeah, exactly. And so yeah, I mean, I think personally for me, I think it's a great end. Um, and all that. And I do appreciate the fact that they went with the route that they did, where like everybody's still going on heroing, um, you know, in a way they're still leading happy lives, but they're still contributing more to like uh, contributing more to society, contributing more to basically the people, and are like full on helping out like the different upcoming generation of heroes and students, and so that way you know and so that way because they know because they don't want them to go through the same trials and tribulations that they went through, and because and basically the first year of being UA students.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, now that we kind of got through it, now that the series is I know the anime is still going on, and it might go on for one more season to cover the end of the war arc and the epilogue and aftermath. Um, but overall, as a story, I mean, where would you put it?
Mm, for shonen,
Yeah,
that's a good word coin. I'd put it at like a 7 in the rating score. Well, like a 6 in the rating score for best shonen.
yeah, yeah. Honestly, that does seem about right. And I know it's a little bit of a controversial topic because seeing as how for like the past couple of years, I know people have been kind of ragging on My Hero Academia in general. But I mean, if you take away outside circumstances like the fandom and all that, if you just focus on the story itself, it's a good. I mean, it's a good shonen. In general, it's a good story in general. Like I would put it like around a 7 or 5. Actually, no, yeah, put it at 5. Um, because at least for me personally, it's out of the new gen, it's the better story out of um, out of the new gen, and it's a good introductory series in case you want to introduce somebody to anime or to manga, and if they happen to be fans of kind of like the MCU and Marvel, it's a good way to introduce them to it because not only does it involve superheroes, but it involves deeper storytelling and essentially the society in general of which the story takes place in. I will say, yeah, it does have its plot holes. I do think that there are some stuff that they could have etched out better. Essentially, kind of like the discrimination against the mutants, and then the discrimination against like supposed quote unquote villainous type quirk users, kind of like with Toga's story and Twice's stuff. Um, I feel like if they would have added a bit more like context to it in the manga, it would have made it would have made it a lot more sympathetic, and it would have increased the drama of it and all that. Same for essentially kind of like the quirks that Midoriya uses later on at the end of near the end of the series, where after because we've seen him train with Black Whip and Float, but we haven't seen him do we haven't seen him develop much of kind of like say Gear Shift or Fajin or Smokescreen or well Danger Sense is kind of tricky because it's like well actually no you can
I
have
mean, Danger Sense, he developed it on the battlefield
yeah
when Toga managed to actually sneak up on him, and he's like, "Wait, Danger Sense didn't go off
yeah
because she wasn't really attacking him out of malicious intent. She was literally, and this is how she perceives the world. If I attack you, I'm attacking you out of love because I like you. I'm not
which is
hurting
fucking
you because
terrifying.
I hate you. I'm hurting you because I want to have a closer connection because that's how I grew up. Because people kept calling my quirk weird. Calling it a freak. So
Yeah,
that's how I grew up thinking, oh, if they're saying that this is wrong, then it must be the right way to think because, you know, ideals.
Yeah, exactly. And so in that aspect, I guess for danger sense, it's like it's not really one such way to train it. It's just like it's something you got to develop on the battlefield. But for the other quirks, it's like I do wish that they would have essentially shown more of the training bits for it, so that way it's like okay, we saw this dude grind out to perfect the rest of his quirks. But yeah, man. I mean, overall, I mean, I'll say this: it is other like after Dragon Ball and Naruto, this is kind of like the anime that got me that actually helped me delve more deep into kind of like the different into more of the anime genres and more into more shonens and more series because before My Hero Academia, I think I really only bought like other than the colored DBZ mangas, I think I only really bought the early seasons of Attack on Titan, or the early volumes of Attack on Titan. And from there, it's kind of like, okay, I sort of didn't really delve much into anime or manga, but it was thanks to My Hero Academia that after watching it, I was like, oh, you know what? Let me see what else is out there. Let me see what other series I could watch, and because this is like right in the middle of phase one of the MCU, and the hype around it, and so from there it's like, oh shit, I didn't know there was an anime based on like actual superheroes, especially if like 80% of the world has their own powers. So let's see, let me check more of this out. And thanks to that, it's like you know, got I was introduced to not just different animes and mangas, but more, but essentially to a hell of a story. And so, yeah, I mean, in my own personal rankings, I would put it at 5, and for the new gen, I would put it at 1. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
because it is a good recommendation
oh yeah,
for like people who are getting into anime. Like, oh yeah, go watch like because what they're thinking is, oh, go watch Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, you can watch it, but there's a lot more animes out there that are more of like your line. If you're into more like superheroes, then yeah, watch My Hero. It's a
yeah,
really good anime superhero.
yeah, exactly. Especially now with basically kind of like superhero movies and like TV series coming up that people are hyped about. I mean, I would say now's the perfect time to give My Hero Academia a shot. I mean, especially since it's in the seventh season. It's well worth it really is well worth the bench, both English and Japanese stuff. Because the English stuff, it's they do amazing work on it.
Oh yeah,
Uh, yeah, so
I watch both just for the kick of it because I want to see the differences.
mm,
There are subtle differences.
yeah, yeah, there are
If you
some.
want to see Bakugo swear, watch the Japanese version. If you want a more kid friendly one, watch the English one. But if you watch the English one, you'll get a lot more of the slang and the lingo there, which actually makes it even funnier.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like when Bakugo tells Todoroki when he calls him icy hot, where it turns out that was only for the English dub.
Yeah,
And so
because we have a product called Icy Hot. You're
yeah,
not going to see that in Japan.
yeah, no, exactly. And that's one of the few like little tidbits that makes the English dub of My Hero Academia like gold, especially the "What's up, Doc?" from Mirako after when she goes to confront the doctor, or that's trying to give Shigaraki all for one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, overall, it's a good series. Highly recommend to go either watch it or read the manga. Um, Trust me, it's you'll love it, especially if you love superhero stuff and you want to delve more into the anime space. Highly recommend. We both highly recommend it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's pretty much all the time we have today. For right now, we're not going to do any anime or manga recommendations. Oh,
Because
I
it's
will
pretty.
say
We're pretty
this.
much just talking about the hype. You know.
Yeah, exactly. This is we're delving into the hype stuff for this one. And and next episode we're going to be back to our regular scheduled programming. I will say this before we get out of here. There is something that I found out over the weekend. So apparently there was this basically promotion for this rom com manga where they promoted it as kind of like, oh, it's a school rom com with an MC male and an MC female and all that, and they took out the artwork, the release date, and the panels and all that. And so when it came out, on the day of the release, they released the first panel of it, and it's essentially it starts off like your regular like your school anime where the main I think it's the main male protagonist is running out of his house, and essentially he has the piece of bread in his mouth. Is like, oh, I'm gonna be late for school.
Right.
Runs out of his house, runs straight into the street, boom, only to get hit by a truck.
Okay.
And you know who's driving that truck?
No.
None other than fucking Deadpool.
Wait. So this is a Deadpool anime?
Nah, it's a Deadpool manga. So
Oh.
so that whole the whole thing to promote like this new rom com like manga and all that stuff, that was just the guys to introduce season 2 of the Deadpool Samurai manga.
That's hilarious.
I know, right, dude? It got a lot of people good, and I found out about it through Twitter. And I was like, you know what? This is incredible marketing. I love it. It fits way well into that because he's the one that's driving the fucking truck and all that. And yeah, and a bit of a preview for next episode. That is essentially the manga recommendation, at least from my end. I'll delve more into it because it is a pretty funny manga so far that I've read through. I read through volume 1 over the week. Loved it, and gonna start cracking on volume 2. Uh, but yeah, if you guys are interested, tune in next week, and I could fill you in on some more of the good stuff for it.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all we have for tonight. Go ahead and enjoy your Friday nights. Go.
Or Monday mornings, depending on when it comes out.
Yeah, Monday morning when it comes out. If it comes out Monday morning, we hope we can make your day at work a little bit more brighter because, fuck yeah, work can be a pain in the ass sometimes. So uh, if you're listening to this at your job, make sure you hide your headphones well, and just tell your boss that you're just listening to music. Um,
Or look over your shoulder because you could be in a workplace where they don't allow music.
that too, but fuck them. Well, why do you care?
No, don't do that. You'll get sexually harassed
not
by the allegations.
not fucking like that. Just disregard authority. Just nah.
Yes, anarchy.
Nah, you're out of pocket for that.
What do you
Um,
mean?
you know what I meant.
I
But
know not of what I have done. Father, forgive me.
nah, bro. But yeah, signing off on this Friday night or Monday morning. We're Easy the Shinobi. For Green Specter, I'm Easy the Shinobi. Have a good night. Stay safe.
Yeah.